Welcome to Gazali. We live in a very difficult times today. We live in times where many ideas are defined and redefined. We live in times where, for example, nationalism has been absolutely redefined. I get a feeling almost that there is a kind of a smallpox vaccination program. There is a kind of a nationalism vaccination program.
So right.
We have with us a very eminent personality, Apoorvanand ji. He lives in Delhi. He is a professor of Hindi in the Delhi University. But apart from being a professor, he is a writer and activist. He, I would say, is a conscience of India today, the conscience of what stands for liberal, tolerant, plural India, the idea of India. I think he's almost the conscience of idea of India today. He has written a number of books, Sundar Ka Sapna. He has, the one is Sahitya Ka Ekant. He has written extensively in almost every journal in the country, in English as well as in Hindi. Welcome, Prudent ji. Let us start with what you spoke at Museum of Goa yesterday, bully nationalism. So, can you just talk to us about bully nationalism? What do you consider bully nationalism?
It was very painful for me to apply this adjective before nationalism, because nationalism is a beautiful emotion, I would say. And this is a very human way of evolving a community, because I am Indian and you are Indian and we are separated by thousands of miles, but somehow by this feeling of being Indian, I feel responsible to you and also accountable to you and connected to you and you too. And when I come from Delhi to Goa, I think that I am welcome. I'm not in an alien place. So nationalism is a thread and it bonds people. It creates a feeling of bonding. So when was it or when is it that it changes its role or it completely transforms itself, and instead of binding people together or inviting people to be their own, it starts alienating them or threatening them or subjugating them. But this is the moment through which I think the world is passing. It's not only an Indian phenomenon, it's an international thing, it's a global thing. And countries across globe are experiencing this moment. When we feel threatened by others, it's not only that we feel threatened by them, we also construct others and we construct aliens. And then we say that they are threatening us. So nationalism then becomes an inward thing where you start withdrawing yourself from the world. You build a cocoon or weave a cocoon, and you think that you are safe within that cocoon.
So in a way, you are talking about a cocoon nationalism.
It's a cocoon nationalism.
Can you just enlighten us about when did this idea of nationalism originate in the world?
I think it was in 18th century and it originated in Europe. And there are scholars who say that there were some original nations. So, but this whole thing of nation states, when, for example, India, so there was a feeling of India. But India as a modern nation state emerged only after colonial intervention, only after British entered India, only after British started defeating not only the Mughal, because Mughals were on a downward journey and Marathas had overtaken Mughals. So British, in fact, not only British, it was British and Portuguese and Dutch and French. So European powers entered India and they tried to subjugate or dominate India and make it their colony. So this was the first time when we saw outsiders coming and making these spaces or Indian spaces their colonies, but not turning themselves into people of this place. So this was the first time Indian people experienced it. But as I was trying to say, that India as India didn't exist then.
So it won't be a wrong thing to say that the very idea of nationalism, nation, originates in the West.
In the West, yes.
In the West. And even in this country, the idea of India as a nation is also a foreign idea which was brought to us.
Yes, it was a foreign idea. Had British not colonized us, I think India as we feel it today won't have been there. So, wouldn't have happened, in fact. So, thanks to the British, thanks to the Europeans, we now have this Indian nationalism. And what is very nice about Indian nationalism is that it emerged over a course of time when we were fighting the foreign rule. So, this solidarity, which we now know as Indian nationalism, emerged during that struggle. So it's a beautiful thing because it's a feeling of solidarity, and it's also a feeling of self-rule, that we don't want to remain subjugated, we don't want to remain dominated, and we are masters of ourselves. So this feeling of autonomy is what is the basis of Indian nationalism. And also it emerged as a kind of extended neighborhood, because India is a multinational country. It's a subcontinent in its nature. So you have Goa, and you have Kerala, and you have Manipur, and you have Chhattisgarh, and you have Bihar, which are very, very different from each other in their eating habits, in their languages. So this diversity is taken care of by this feeling of Indian nationalism.
Let me just make a small observation. My friend Ramchandra Guha has a very interesting theory. He says the idea of a nation requires, first of all, a common language, a common religion, and a common enemy.
That's the Western thing.
That's the Western idea.
Western thing.
So, the Western nations have this kind of a three criteria, but India does not have that.
And
so how does Indian nationalism
and he
differ?
also says that, common enemy. Yeah. But Indian nationalism inverted it. The first thing, and I think the most revolutionary thing Indian nationalism did, was that it said that we are a nation but without an enemy. Yeah. And if you read Gandhi, and if you read Subhash Chandra Bose, if you read Nehru, if you read others, they say that we are fighting against the British, but British are not our enemy. And we are not fighting them, we are fighting their desire to dominate others. And they also said, and we were discussing it yesterday, and you were telling me about Gandhi neurons. Yeah. And you told me that when you dominate me, it doesn't only do violence to me, it also does violence to you. So this is what Gandhi said. Yes. And he told British when he was refusing cooperation in the Second World War, he told them that we want you to get off our backs. And we want it not only for ourselves, we want it for you. Yes. Because we are, by liberating ourselves, we are not only liberating ourselves, we are also freeing you.
Yes. So, can you now elaborate on some subtle differences between the nationalism of Gandhi, Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, and the leaders of our nationalist movement, and the nationalism of today?
So I see nationalism as an ever-evolving thing. It's never a closed idea, and we would never be able to say that, well, this is the nationalism we must practice. And since it's an evolving idea, Indian nationalism, as it evolved during freedom struggle, it, it was a kind of invitation. It was an invitation to people of different languages, different cultures, different eating and just habits, to come together and create, as I said earlier, a large network of neighborhoods where you feel connected. So you are autonomous and yet you are connected. So it was a kind of invitation and also a struggle to understand the other, because I can't say that you are one of us. There is this otherness which always exists. So it's a duty for each one of us to understand the other, and yet also think that we won't be able to comprehend you completely. So there is something which would always be beyond me, and I will have to give space to this beyondness, which is incomprehensible, and not feel threatened, because this is something I want to reach, but I won't be able to. So this feeling of inadequacy should always be in us, but it shouldn't create a feeling of fear. It should create a feeling of attraction towards the other. And this is what I think our national leaders were trying to do, to give an invitation, and also to put a challenge that can you understand me, and can you feel that you are my people. So this was a struggle. And third thing was a challenge to accommodate people. Can you accommodate? You are a fish-loving person, and you know that I don't eat fish, but can we sit together on the same dining table? And can you take care of my eating habits? And can I develop myself as a person who doesn't get offended by the smell of your fish? So this was also a challenge.
So it won't be wrong on my part to say that the nationalism of the freedom struggle was a nationalism of invitation.
Yes, it
and
was an
today
invitation.
the nationalism is a nationalism of Adesh.
It is, yes, Adesh. I tell you that you obey me, you be like me, or you behave as I tell you, otherwise you don't belong. So this is what we are trying to say today. And this is why I call it bully nationalism or coercive nationalism. It's not inviting anymore. What it does, when you say that you have to practice vegetarianism. I myself am a vegetarian. But if I am ordered by somebody else to be a vegetarian, I would feel revolted. If I am told by you that every time you see tricolor, you have to start singing national anthem, I would feel revolted. My sense of individuality would feel somehow hurt, and I would rebel against it. So this is not an invitation, this is a threat which I am feeling, and therefore I call it a coercive or bully nationalism. First, you build a cocoon, and then you develop this fear for the other, and then you turn into a bully, where you try to dominate or subjugate the other. And that's why this kind of nationalism, which we see being practiced in India and elsewhere as well, is based, since we have seen another kind of nationalism in 20th century, which was based on the idea of exterminating the other. Hitler said that he has a final solution, and Germany should be purged of the polluted Jewish or Jew blood, and it should be purified. That was the idea of Hitler, so the idea of extermination. But we also saw that extermination is impossible, so the pollution remains. So what do? Then you develop another strategy, and this is the strategy of domination, of subjugation. So bring the other you have created, under your subjugation, under your permanent subjugation, restrict this other, fix it in a designated place. So this is the strategy that has been developed in India. And this is a strategy of domination or subjugation, subjugate the other. And we must understand that it's based on this division of majority and minority. So, and majorities can again be based on many things. And one which is very prominent is religion. So there are people who call themselves Hindu in many ways, but they are Hindus nevertheless. So we know that India is a country where Hindus are in majority. And there are different minorities, religious minorities. One is that the largest minority is that of Muslims, and there's a minuscule minority of Christians. But Christians are prominent because they were associated with the Europeans as well, Christianity, and also because of the prominence of their educational and health activities. So this cultural dominance, which is associated with Christianity, is again something to be dealt with. And the Islamic past has also to be dealt with. So what do? You dominate the Muslims who live in India today, and thereby you take revenge of the past. So this whole nationalism, coercive or bully nationalism, which we see being practiced in India, is based on this idea of subjugating or dominating these religious minorities. And then you can say that, well, we are not killing you, we are not exterminating you, we are not throwing you in Indian Ocean, Hind Mahasagar mein hum nahi phenk rahe hain, we are allowing you to live. But you have your place, as we call it in Hindi, औकात में रहो, and live as we say. So follow us, and this is what we see today, and it's very painful to see the beautiful idea of Indian nationalism being turned or getting perverted into this wretched idea of bully nationalism.
So the idea of India basically formed during the freedom struggle, and right now the way it has been dealt with, it's a defeat of the very founding principles of the freedom struggle.
Yes. I saw an artwork in your gallery. I think it's done by you, and it deals with the layers of the walls.
Yes.
Which you have taken out or you have found, where you say that this is the practice in this part. I am forgetting the name of the community, or
here every house is painted every year before Christmas. It doesn't happen now anymore because now we have antifungal colors. But with the kind of monsoon we have here, earlier we had to do the chuna, and during the monsoon it will become all full of fungus, and it will scrape it off and paint it again before Christmas.
in our part of India, Hindus do it before Diwali. So it's again the same thing. We do it before Diwali, and you do it before Christmas. But then what you show in your artwork is that there are layers and layers and layers. And the older one leaps from behind.
Yes.
So you can see that layer. Yes. And this is how Jawaharlal Nehru defined India. He said that India is a palimpsest. So layers over layers over layers, and it's very difficult to know which layer came first. So this idea of an original thing and this idea of somehow getting connected to this original thing doesn't exist, because we are a layered personality.
Yes.
And this beautiful layered thing is Indian nationalism, which emerged in the course of freedom struggle, which you were talking about and which your artwork beautifully represents. And the moment I saw it, I recalled Nehru's words. I thought that I would give you that quote, which you can use if you want. But this is what we had achieved. And we told people, we assured them that you don't need to belong to that original moment, because there is no original moment. And if I claim that I have the first right on this land because I somehow can prove my connect with that original moment, and then I would treat you as a secondary or second grade or second rate citizen because you came after me. So this whole thing of Indian culture originating
At
some point of time is, I think, false.
That's very true. We see that when there are historical researches happening in Goa itself, who is the original Goan is a very, very big question.
Yes.
Because there are some historians feel that one of the first peoples to visit here were from Iraq.
Yes.
That is by one of the historians, and who is a very highly respected historian. So, I mean, origins, who is insider, who is outsider, who is, you are very right, that it's a very complex issue.
And recently I was reading a poem. I have a friend, Nidhish Tyagi, who has this habit of sending a poem a day. So this is what he does. And he sent a poem by an Arab poet in which he says that when you have a visitor, a stranger visiting you, knocking your door, don't ask him where you are coming from and where you are headed to. Before asking this question, offer him or her water. Offer him food, because he or she must be tired, and allow 3 days to pass. So maybe after 3 days, you won't feel the need to ask this question. Maybe you have become such good friends that you want him to live with you forever. So this, I think, is a very beautiful thing, that this desire to know where you are coming from and where you are headed to, we should try to somehow restrain ourselves from asking these questions. There will always be strangers visiting you. You yourself are a stranger when you are visiting other lands, and you want to feel welcome in other lands. And other strangers also want to feel welcome in your land. And this is how another friend of mine, Alok Rai, quoting another poet, said that this is the false idea that we have roots, because we are human beings and we have legs. So we walk. We keep walking. And your whole museum, which is in fact somehow based on this idea of ocean, is similar to it. That we are not stable beings, we are not fixed identities, we are turbulent beings, and we are ever journeying beings. So we should always keep ourselves ready to feel different kinds of strangeness and develop in us capacity to be friendly to them.
Absolutely. Apoorvanand, I think this was a very, very interesting conversation. You are very right that we should stop asking a guest where you come from, because we ourselves, we don't know where we come from. And I must just mention one little anecdote. There's a group of 15 people at random people were selected, and they did a DNA test. And through the DNA test, they came to the conclusion that 2 of the strangers were actually third cousins. So how our DNA has been mixing in the world is sort of a very
mystery to us.
It's a mystery.
A mystery to us. But again, I'd like to alert to another danger, which is of citing this sameness of belonging to the same blood group as being the basis of feeling a kind of kinship. I say that I must understand that you are different from me. You somehow don't belong. And yet, I'm not your enemy. And yet, I can be your friend. And yet, I'm responsible to you. And yet, it's my duty not to let any harm happen to you. So I feel a call of Palestinians. I feel a call of Africans. I rush to them. So we must be alive to the fact that being of the same group should not be the basis of friendship, feeling one. Because many times I have heard people telling the others that, why do you say that Pakistan is our enemy? Because they are like us. But what if they were not like us? And what do you do with people who are not like us? So this is the challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think, yes, nationalism should be not of monologues but dialogues.
Yes.
Yes, and that's what we need very badly in this
It
country.
needs to be a kind of round table.
Yeah, it has to be a round table.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, that's very right. I think this was a lovely conversation with Apoorvanand ji, and I think he's a kind of a mine of knowledge and information. So we will not end here. Next week we will have another conversation with him, and that will be about Gandhi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.